Plans on the way to align Nigeria's census budget with current financial realities.
"10,000 frontline health workers in Nigeria's northeast equipped for better service delivery."
Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa sworn in as 7th Governor of Ondo State.
And then good morning, Nigeria. Today, our focus is on bridging the consensus on the country's tax reforms.
Well, for years, Nigeria's tax system has practically been on autopilot. Same rules, same processes. In fact, some say the current attempt at tax reform is an overhaul of the sector through the proposed 2024 tax reform bills.
Well said, Victor. Now, the bills which have scaled through second reading at both chambers of the National Assembly are generating debates across the country, triggering a public hearing by the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Well, the tax bills are expected to usher in serious reforms that will promote fairness, as well as address inefficiencies in the country's tax systems.
An issue generating the most debate in all this is the expected change in how much value-added tax should be. Yeah, the popular VAT, and how it should be shared across, board, talking about the subnationals. The proposal on value-added tax was rejected by the Nigeria Governors Forum, though they agreed to the new tax reform bills.
Well, the bills propose the allocation of 60% based on derivation, which most persons say favors states with higher contributions, though they believe it will widen regional disparities.
But others insist that local economies will be empowered, burdens lifted on low-income earners, as well as small businesses.
So, this tax reform process has also revealed that only 30% of Nigerians pay their taxes.
Are you one of them?
Definitely, because mine is from source.
Okay.
You'll recall that this came from no less a person than President of the Senate.
Well, the tax reform bill so far covered the following areas: redistribution of VAT revenues, VAT exemptions for essentials, tax relief for low-income earners, incentives for small businesses, and reduction of multiple taxation.
So it does appear that states that rely heavily on federal allocations may have a tough time when these bills become law.
But several persons are also worried about bureaucratic delays that could affect implementation. There are also concerns that there may be economic pressures on larger entities like multinationals, as well as public distrust on the way these funds generated will be deployed.
And so on Good Morning Nigeria today, we will attempt to bridge a consensus on issues surrounding the tax reform process. We have some guests who will join us shortly. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. I am Victor Azu.
Yeah, well, Victor, a lot of people say that the tax reform bills happens to be the most debated so far in Nigeria's history.
Yeah, well, that's the way to go. That's the way to go. Yes, maybe not the most, because you have to take stock. There have been other very heated debates on some other issues, but this is something we should encourage as a nation, so that things are thought over and over. You talk through them before you arrive at a decision.
Just imagine the bills were human beings, they'll be feeling so much heat.
Well,
what do you think?
That's what it should be.
All right. Anyways, so it's going to be a heated discussion. Of course, you want to stay put. I'm Ian Ray John. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. This is Africa's largest TV network. In the course of the program, we'll bring you newspaper review. Then Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja will join us. But for now, let's have the morning news. We got Zenret Digmun as our guide. Looking like the sky this morning. Zenret, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ian Ray and Victor, and here is the morning news. President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Ondo State Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa on his fresh term in office. Governor Aiyedatiwa, who succeeded former Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, was sworn in at Akure, the capital of Ondo State. In a statement by Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, President Tinubu urged him to use his overwhelming mandate to serve the good people of the state and build on the legacy of his illustrious predecessor, the late Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, by expanding economic opportunities, reducing poverty, improving security, and providing critical infrastructure. Now, the trial of the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, has commenced before the Federal High Court, Abuja Division. Yahaya Bello is being prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for alleged fraud in the alleged financial crimes matter before the Federal High Court in Abuja. Yahaya Bello and 3 others are standing trial on allegations bordering on fraud and money laundering. They are facing 19-count charge preferred against them by EFCC. President Bola Tinubu says he will not relent on his administration's goal of empowering youths through viable endeavors, especially digital economy. The president reiterated his commitment at the presentation of report from members of Senior Executive Course 46 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS.
Administration will set the priority since we started to empower our youths. We are not going to relent on that. We need the collaborative efforts of everybody here.
Nigeria is taking a step closer to conducting a new national population and housing census with biometric and digital components. The indication emerged as President Bola Tinubu met with officials of the National Population Commission who came to brief him at the State House. The president said he would set up a committee to align the census budget to government's present financial realities. He suggested that the National Identity Management Commission must be part of the review. He reiterated his commitment to ensuring accurate and reliable figures from the national census to strengthen development planning and improve Nigerians' living conditions through more efficient social security. President Tinubu noted that government incentives such as sale and distribution of fertilizers could be easily improved with the more reliable data and demographics. The Renewed Hope Initiative has again put tools in the hands of frontline health workers with the presentation of another set of 10,000 medical kits, this time to midwives in northwest states. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu made the presentation in Kaduna to kickstart her 2-day working visit to the state. And Senate is advancing closer to reforming Nigeria's tax system with a public hearing on 4 major tax bills. The public engagement provides a platform for stakeholders to understand and contribute to the proposed laws aimed at boosting revenue generation and streamlining tax administration in Nigeria. And that's it on the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Victor and Ian Ray after this break.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, 1 person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, 1 person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary health care center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Sunana Safiya Ismail, ni daga Gwagwalada Area Council a karkashin Giri. Ina da yara 7 da mijina. Sana'ana sadda itace. Akwai damuwomi da yawa, rashin kudi. Da mun sonta zaka ga itace zai kare, ba kudi ne zaka siya wani. An kira ni, ayi Safiya Ismail, nace yes. Come for your benefits at Angondo do Gwagwalada. Suka bani ATM din, immediately na withdraw kudi na. Amman gaskiya kudin ya zo at the right time.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
The National Institute of Construction Technology and Management, a federal polytechnic located in Uromi, Edo State, is the first of its kind in Nigeria, empowered to give a seamless transition of students from vocational colleges at the secondary level to technical institutions at the tertiary level.
The institute currently has 14 programs running in 4 schools to choose from. They include School of Applied Sciences, School of Business and Management Studies, School of Engineering Technology, and School of Environmental Technology. These courses have all been accredited by the National Board for Technical Education, NBTE. The school also has short professional certificate courses for skilled and unskilled artisans willing to upgrade themselves in their chosen fields. Post-UTME screening forms for the 2024-2025 academic session into the institute are out and can be obtained directly from the school at Uromi, Edo State, or online at www.nict.edu.ng. The institute admits candidates for preparatory evening classes. Please call 0706-855-0220 or 0915-955-9939 for more information.
NICTM, Technology for Service.
No buy am. Bro, But why?
No, see, say this big bull bag of rice no get the new big bull holographic seal.
Not true.
Introducing the Big Bull Holographic Seal Tape, your favorite authentic Big Bull rice, 50 kg and 25 kg. Now with holographic seal tape. This is to ensure you get the premium product from Big Bull Rice. Do not buy if the holographic seal tape is not on the bag or is broken. Big Bull Rice. Tasty rice nourished you.
With Nivea Dry Deo, you can keep moving forward in life with confidence. Nivea Dry Deo. Derma 72-hour active protection against sweat and odor with 0% alcohol to prevent irritation. Stay dry and fresh all day long. Skin is for moving forward, Nivea is for skin. Your favorite Nivea Deo, now in a smaller pack size.
So hot, Auntie. You'll get used to it.
Yes!
What's the big deal? It's just a cereal.
Just a cereal? You're talking about something that has helped thousands of Niger farmers provide for their families for decades. And it's packed with the energy and nutrition. That's why Golden Morn is so special to us. You get it?
Keep enjoying Niger's favorite breakfast cereal fortified with Grain Smart, a special combination of iron and vitamins to help your family make every day golden.
I get it now.
Nestle.
My champs, they use energy at school.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release.
Right, plenty to unpack in the dailies today, so let's dive right in.
All right, according to Victor, the man to unpack all in the dailies this morning is seated right here, talking about Chukwudi Okolie Ogbaja. Good morning, Chukwudi. Good to see you.
I am becoming famous in my twilight. You know, God works in mysterious ways. Don't you think so, Victor? Mischievous Victor.
God does work in mysterious ways. His wonders to perform.
How you doing? Good morning.
All right.
Good morning to you.
Let's see what the papers have. We'll begin with the blueprint. The blueprint leads with NNPCL, Ramfac, Arewa, Think Tank, others back tax reform bills. Riders, ACF won 7.5% VAT retained, agri equipment tax scrapped. Give me a workable law, Tinubu charges lawmakers, and that's on the tax reform bills. Away from that, 82 billion naira fraud, ex-governor Bello's name not on property documents. That's according to a witness, and that's on page 6. Both the master and information minister, Idris' mother-in-law, laid to rest in Abuja. Away from that, act decisively to end terrorism, CDS charges commanders. And below the picture story of the blueprint this morning, we have reinstated Osun local government chairman issues 72-hour ultimatum to workers. No going back, NLC replies. Below that, scrapping TED fund will be catastrophic, Kogi Basti VC warns. That's on page 13. Beside that, 9 die in Ogun. Auto crash, very sad, and NDLEA flags of campaign as drug abuse hits 3 million in Northwest. Finally, on the front page of the blueprint, recapitalize FMBN. 150 billion naira allocation to MOFI misplaced. Ex-Raiden boss tells federal government. That's on page 19. If you want to find out all the details, pick up a copy of the blueprint. Let's see the Daily Trust now. The Daily Trust leads with opponents dissect Tinubu's tax reform bills. ACF submits memoranda will be thorough, according to Akpabio. Above that, Customs withdraws 4% import charges. That's on page 19. Tinubu to set up committee on census. That's on page 6. And on page 10, you can read up NNPP. That's the kicker. Kwankoso's faction. Run differ over suspension. All right, let's look below that, below the picture story. Of course, the picture story is on the public hearing on tax reform bills at the National Assembly yesterday. And we have Tinubu, not National Assembly, dropped me as minister. That's according to El Rufai. Tenant beats up landlord over house rent. Interesting. Page 16 has that. Drug abuse, domestic violence on increase in Northwest, according to Speaker. And finally, 9 killed, 3 injured in Lagos-Ibadan road crash. Victor.
Thank you, Ian Ray. Well, I have the leadership here with me, and it leads with this headline. NEC meeting, APC begins pushback against opposition coalition. Consolidates bases, decides on congresses, targets Anambra governorship seat. NNPP suspends senator fraternizing with Ganduje, Barau. All right, and just above the nameplate, Tinubu didn't want me in his cabinet. That's attributed to El Rufai, page 7. And Ayedatiwa sworn in as 7th Ondo governor. That one is on page 17. And below the masthead, fuel scarcity looms as marketers threaten nationwide strike. Give FG 7-day ultimatum. That story is on page 7. And to the right, you have the stories in small boxes. Again, multi-choice increases subscription rates for DSTV, GoTV. To get details of the new rates, go to page 22. And Bereketa Radio's Ahmed Issa to honor Senate invitation, page 16. And finally, Pa Adebanjo for burial, May 3, page 17. Chukwudi.
Some of us are still annoyed with Ikemba Nnewi, Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu, for not writing a full book. The pamphlet he wrote is a little more than a pamphlet. He called Because
I was involved.
Because I'm involved. That's not appetizing enough. Because I'm involved in this multi-choice thing you just read, increasing it to where? I can't cope with the current, that's not even up to three months, and you're telling me that I am visibly angry. Maybe you shouldn't have read it.
I am.
Where are they taking the subscription rates to?
I am too, but you have a choice.
Because
what
it's multi-choice.
What choice do you have? What
so
choice?
Not subscribe.
And then, what do you fall back on?
Wait.
What else?
Wait, Victor.
Whatever else.
Victor.
Fall back on.
Victor.
It's a private entity.
Victor.
It's a private
we're
entity.
not just journalists. We are also media people generally. Information at a point becomes a right.
Exactly.
And all the platforms that supply it, you make them work so that the citizenry can step into the next century feeling like improved human beings.
I think we should follow the proper, line of action. Let's work more on why is there no competition? Why is there? Because if there is competition, then they will have something to chew on. They will have something to worry about.
I know what you mean.
Monopoly, this is what you get with a monopoly.
I think I have an idea why the competition doesn't seem to be there. We're not talking about Toro and Penny to do what multi-choice provides. That's the truth. Anyway, I hope my anger showed enough. I'm asking, is El Rufai becoming 2027 phobic? He's beginning to talk of late and all that. The way politics goes in Nigeria, everything we are hearing is heading towards 2027. And we are saying that governance has not had a full showing, there in the village square. Let's call Nigeria a village. For them to now start doing things that tend to distract. It's about relevance in 2027. The way it is going, El Rufai would seem to be feeling that he's on the sidelines and he wants to get in there. However they handle it, when they said they dropped him out of security reasons, nobody told us what the security reasons were. Maybe if they had told us, we would say, hey, you should go beyond dropping him. I'm not saying anything that impugns the character of El Rufai. I'm saying all the options that would have been laid on the table so that we know who is transparent and who isn't among those who lead us. It's just that government tends to give you half-truths about certain things. Maybe not deliberately. Maybe it's their method of work. It's not very effective in terms of giving Nyere, Victor, Chukwudi, a right over choosing who comes next. The citizenry must be freed up to make their decisions. That's what I think. So Tinubu didn't want me in his cabinet. Let them rule over that within their political circles. What fuel scarcity are they talking about looming again? Don't mind them. I think we have finally delivered a straight punch to the belly of artificial want, which Nigeria suffers from in many facets of its life. I think that we have enough fuel now to go through anything. Marketers know that competition has become the name of the game. That strike they are planning is not going to last long because they're now trying to survive. You walk just half a kilometer, you see 5 naira difference at filling stations now. Who says economic models don't work in this country?
Well, I actually skipped a tiny, a story in a tiny strip here, which reads, Dangote refinery meets 60% of domestic demand.
Yes.
So I know that's somewhere where you are driving, what you are driving at. So if we have, and that's what competition also does.
Yes.
Same for the pay-view sector. It's the same.
Do you know the beauty of the Dangote refinery and Nigerians? Dangote can't say, my options are so many, I don't sell to Nigerians at all. This bride of Africa is the first bride in the world. The Nigerian consumer base is simply designed for anybody who wants to invest. So it is all going to be good, on and on if we are not too ambitious about tomorrow getting better than yesterday. Let's take it one day at a time. I think we are stabilizing this country gradually.
All right. Talking
think
about
we are.
stabilizing the country, having the right data as regards the number of people in this country, talking about census is very important. And now President Bola Tinubu has set up a committee to align the census budget to the government's present financial realities. A lot of people are saying that we hope this time around the census will just hold once and for all, because a report says that over 291.5 billion naira has been spent so far in a bid to conduct, another census in this country. I mean, we just hope that this new committee and the new talk, meets reality.
We're not trying to prejudice whatever President Ahmed Bola Tinubu is about to do. But we would, as journalists, say, I hope it's not another round of the job for the boys and all that. There are too many leaks in our system. When you give us a census, the first thing we ask is, are final figures going to be credible? And you just mentioned something that is very important. Once and for all, if we had antenatal clinics that worked, if we had a database that worked, where you could easily go to a clinic, know who was born at 12 noon today, you add him or her to the whatever, so that decreases the need for you to do the routine 5-year, I think it's more than 7 years now.
Did you say 7?
We can do a lot better.
It's been ages.
I'm not sure Yere has seen any census.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Let men just drop their greed. We're too greedy as a people. It's not right. I want money, but may I not get money I don't need? It's one of my prayers. Yes.
Okay, well, census is important. Now, talking about money you don't need, are the landlords asking for too much money? Another story.
Let Victor go and beat up his landlord.
Are you sure I have one?
Somebody is already beating a landlord at the moment. So
he has beaten me to it. Did you hear him? Are you sure I have one? This little boy already has a house. How dare you?
So you're a landlord yourself. Fantastic.
I'm an authority.
I like that. They got prosperous so that we come into our own early in life. All it takes is planning, really. Much of the money I wasted could have built me a 2-bedroom bungalow maybe 4 years ago. Teach your children money sense in time. Reorganize the way Nigerians look at prosperity in life. It's not somebody give me honey, oh God, it doesn't work that way. It is planning. Respect Toro, respect Penny. Some of us didn't respect Toro and Penny. How you are now?
let's leave
How you are on this bar review for today?
To go do your penny picking.
He wants to kick me out. I don't care. I've said what I've said already.
Just to allow you time to do your penny picking.
Thank you so much.
We'll return for the conversation just after this break. Please don't go away.
Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
My champs, they use energy at school.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we swear in colors, with undying demand, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we have more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strength in unity, we know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Nigeria is perched on a treasure trove of solid minerals. Gold, coal, tantalum, tin. But none is more critical to our future, or the world's future, like lithium.
Let's talk about illegal mining operations. What is our strategy?
Welcome to Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis, a TV series dedicated to aging and older persons in Nigeria. Be part of this series and discover the transformative programs crafted to give a new lease of life to our senior citizens, courtesy of the National Senior Citizen Center.
The National Senior Citizen Center is the oasis for the senior citizens.
For thought-provoking discussions on aging, geriatric social care, and issues that matter most to our senior citizens.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Tune in to Silver Oasis on the network service of the NGA every Saturday at 10:05 p.m. Silver Oasis, improving the quality of lives of senior citizens.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. And just before we bring in our panel of guests to dissect our topic this morning, which is on bridging a consensus on tax reforms, let's take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent Oyeyemi Ajayi.
The tax reform bills were drafted by the Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms and Fiscal Policy with the aim to overhaul Nigeria's existing tax laws. Since its proposal, the bills have faced opposition, though some have suggested wider consultation, especially the Nigeria Governors Forum, which endorsed a revised value-added tax sharing formula different from what was proposed in the tax bills. The reform believes the new formula will ensure equitable distribution of Nigeria's resources. The bill is expected to elevate Nigeria to the level of advanced economies, ensuring adequate funding for infrastructure, education, agriculture, and some sectors of the economy. This informs the two-day public hearing on proposed tax reform bills by the Senate, bringing together key stakeholders from the nation's economic and financial sectors, while assuring that the National Assembly will produce tax administration legislation that will be accepted to Nigerians. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, Senator Sani Musa, assured that the process would be transparent and guided by national interest, while stressing that the hearing is to review and reform the country's tax laws to align the current economic realities. The reforms are said to be designed to ensure equity, fairness and inclusivity, while eliminating inefficiencies in existing tax policies. He urged all stakeholders and the general public to actively participate in the discussions, emphasizing the importance of collective contributions in shaping a tax system that fosters economic growth and national prosperity. Now, can there indeed be a general consensus on the tax reforms bill despite a series of reservations expressed at different fora? How favorable will it be to the main man on the street, especially low-income and small business owners? Our guests will be responding to these issues and more shortly.
All right, many thanks, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that background report. Now, to begin our conversation on the tax reform bills, let me begin by introducing our guests here in the studio. And I have Representative Francis Ejirogene Waive, Chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
My pleasure once again.
All right, also joining us for this conversation is Dr. Kennedy Iwundo, an Associate Professor of Forensic Accounting. He's also a former, the immediate past chairman actually, of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Abuja District.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations and thank you for joining us. The last time that wasn't your designation.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, many thanks for joining us. Also joining us for the conversation, but in our Kano studio is Sheikh Kamaluddin Al-Khali, former Assistant Director, Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning there in the studio. Good morning, Nigerians, on Good Morning Nigeria program. Thank you.
All right. For some reasons, I would like to start from Kano because the tax reform bills promise fairness and efficiency. So from what you know while in service and what you are seeing now, what specific inefficiencies would you say the tax bills are addressing?
there are many. We will mention some. Some of them, in fact, the key among them is the issue of Stamp Duties Act. I mentioned on this program in August 2023 and November also 2023 that the law is obsolete. It is a 1939 act, and the act was still carrying issues of 26 kobo, 30 kobo, like that. But completely the committee has put aside that law, and there is a new law on stamp duties. That is something that is commendable. And there are some clashes in the tax laws, or there are some provisions that have long been overdue for amendments, which the committee has worked tirelessly on, and the bill has addressed issues like the minimum tax issue on companies that are making losses. It is very unfair that if the Nigerian government is a partner in every business, unwanted partner anyway, that when you make your profits, the government will come and share in your profit in the name of tax. Then when you make losses, the government, I expect, should also share in the pain of the losses of businesses. So by removing minimum tax on companies that have made losses, that is a giant leap, and is commendable also. And then for people who suffer injury in the course of work, or whatever sort of injury, if they receive compensation by way of that injury, up to 50 million naira compensation for injury, for libel, whatever, then they will not pay capital gains tax, which was not so before. And when you look at even the issue of minimum tax, no, not minimum tax, personal income taxation, currently anybody that is earning up to 300,000 naira per annum will pay 7% as personal income tax. But with the bills, if the bills get scales through the National Assembly and it becomes act, now even with an income of 800,000 naira, you pay 0 personal income tax. So that suggests that even people who earn minimum tax, minimum pay, will not pay personal income tax on that. And then the issue of electronic levy that is charged and shared and collected by the federal government, now it will be shared to states. Then there is issue of multiplicity of taxes. That in Nigeria now, you have over 200 taxes, about 65 official or legal. It's too much on businesses. So the bill now addresses that. Now you have 10 or less number of taxes that the people will have to deal with. It's also commendable. And then the simplification of the tax laws, and then unification. Now you have all the tax laws in one book and simplified. In fact, the committee is now set to even interpret the laws in the major languages of the country, so that it will get to even people who cannot speak English to understand the tax law. It is also key. So, and even the operations at the level of the FIRS is something that has simplified the operations. I will not forget to also mention that there is something that is really an issue of concern. That is what we call the headquarter effect. That when you talk of value-added tax, to follow the principle of ease of doing business, the companies that have branches all over suffer in making returns. It is agreed that they have to make returns in 100 different places if they have 100 different branches. But the FIRS now issued a circular asking them to pay where they have their headquarters centrally. And that may be a good intention, but then when it comes to sharing what is collected in the VAT pool account, some states will take credit, will sit authoritatively on what does not belong to them. And that is the issue of Lagos State in particular, to the detriment of the other 35 states and Abuja. So because of that, the bill has come up with an issue of electronic fiscalization system. A very good idea. How the workings of that system is what is worrisome. Will it work? Who is going to develop the software package? Who is the vendor? Can he be trusted? Who will operate the machines? Who will supply the machines? What machines, what equipment will be even used is questionable. Because even when I heard Mr. Tayo Oyedele talking about the equipment that will be used, he was talking of maybe, whether it is FIRS that will supply or it is the government that will supply, and what equipment they are going to use. Is it the POS machine or something like it, or is it the INEC Beaver with its attendant problems? That is not clear. But if the fiscalization will actually work, it will help a lot in doing justice. So for me, the bills have addressed a lot of issues positively, but the government and the members of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms should be courageous enough to take inputs from Nigerians, especially from tax experts, and then make necessary amendments. So that is my take on this.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Alkali, for your opening comments. You have raised a lot of questions there, and of course you have talked about the positives of these bills. Let's come back here in the studio and speak with Honorable Francis Uwaive, who is the Chairman House Committee on Rules and Business, and of course is part of the public hearing currently going on. I mean, it was debated at the House of Representatives. Yeah. I mean, you did a lot of work. We did see you and all of that, and then your colleagues, all of that. There are so many contentious clauses, you know, about this bills, if you like. Speak to us about, you know, the position of the National Assembly, or if you like, your own position about these bills.
First, I would say that there are not many contentious
the VAT
clauses.
The VAT is a contentious clause. I'll give you the revenue derivation formula is another one. No, the discretionary powers of the president. Yes. Clause 75 is also another one.
Yeah, if you look at the total number of clauses in the bills, there are 4 of them. And then you do a ratio analysis with the ones they are talking about. You know that it's just a few clauses, because we are talking of hundreds of clauses this time. But just maybe 4 or 5 that is raising the whole of this dust. But thankfully, they have been addressed. And at the public hearing, memoranda will be accepted from members of the public rural and in writing in these areas like the VAT, the presidential powers, you talked about the discretionary and all of that.
The CIT.
Yeah, all of that will be addressed. It's expected that the position of the governors, for instance, will be presented during the public hearing, and all that will be looked into. There's already a national consensus, as it were, on the VAT, and once that is presented, I think the necessary amendments will be made, and we're going to run with the VAT reform bills. The VAT reform bills, everyone has come to a conclusion that they are very necessary, and they are well written, and they are written for the good of our country. Those areas where we disagree, thankfully, those who penned those areas, Taiwo and Co., they've come to the point where they are reasoning with everybody. Zach, all of them, everybody believes, let's move this country forward. We can't run on archaic laws. And even on the floor, when it was debated in the House of Representatives, my colleagues who have their own opinions on some of these areas did mention those areas. So they will be taken care of. There are not that many. It's just that in these kind of things, those who are loudest appear to be many. But the noise about those few areas doesn't mean that the entire thing or most of it is controversial. No, it's just a few areas, and those areas are being addressed. And I believe by the time, for instance, there was a motion to consolidate the 4 bills before we began debate. So by the time it comes out, it will be one single document. Nigerian tax reform law, for instance, when the president would have signed. So it's something that is good for our country. Multiple taxation will be a thing of the past. The poor of the poor will no longer have to pay tax. And the distribution mechanism has been reworked by leadership, such that by the time this bill is passed, there will be little or no complaints. No law is perfect. Wherever there are complaints after passage, there's always room for amendments. So I think that the country is on the right trajectory on these tax bills. If it wasn't there, we would be going back the dark ages. But we thank God that we have a visionary president whose idea this is. And we also thank God that he is able to listen to what everyone is saying. And even in the House, I appreciate the way Mr. Speaker handled it. There was state by state caucus meetings that he attended to ask their opinion. Then there were regional caucus meetings. There were zonal caucus meetings. He wasn't imposing anything. What is your opinion? What do you think? Or somebody will say, my governor doesn't want it. All right, let's call your governor. What are the issues? And by the time we did second reading, there was already a consensus that we're going to pass this for second reading, but with this proviso that these areas of concern will be dealt with. And we passed it, and now public hearing is beginning this week, and you can be sure that justice will be done, and the Nigerian economy will be better for it.
Would you say, I'm a bit worried, of course, I've heard that before, but you've also alluded to the fact that, well, it's, let's just let this go. We'll do the main talking when it is time for public hearing. In time past, you've seen the House of Representatives not particularly dealing very well with issues that are contentious. It often degenerates, it snowballs into something bigger than the way we are talking about it now. So are we expecting a seamless hearing, knowing that, anyway, you will still have to come to the House to do the final passage? Are we expecting a seamless public hearing process and perhaps final passage of this bill?
Sure, because the period of the debate of the second reading, that is where emotions usually, rise. When people are speaking for and against the bill, when people are looking at the merits and the merit of any bill, that's when emotions rise. And Mr. Speaker, the Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, he has handled this very differently. He could have, just thrown the bill there and put the question, and whether the ayes or nays have it ruled the way he wants to rule, and then some people walk out. But this leadership is very different. The first thing he did was to ensure that rules on business, that we made copies available for every member of parliament, 360. So you had electronic copies, you had printed copies. And by the time he invited Zach and Taiwo to come and give us further talk on this. He printed copies again for everybody. He mandated my committee to do that. So it's been engaging, and you'll find the way the second reading went. Now, the public hearing, they're going to listen to everybody who has something to say, and their thoughts will be taken into consideration. By the time the Committee of Finance, who is handling this, bring back their report, it will be laid, my committee will now list for presentation. It will now come to Committee of the Whole to discuss it, clause by clause. At that time, we are no longer looking at merits and demerits. At that stage, they would have incorporated all of these things we are talking about. So what members will be watching out for instance, is when we get to the VAT area, what is now coming as the report.
How is it couched?
Is it still the original thing, or what came out through the public hearing, has it been properly incorporated? Now, when we get to that stage, it's clause by clause. That's a clause is something that will become, when it becomes an act, that's a section. But this time, not yet an act, it's a clause. So at this stage, you now read a clause and ask members to respond. So if they are okay, the show is carried, it's okay. But if they are not okay, somebody will say objection. That clause, it ought to be this percentage. Why is it that? This is what we want. So it's going to be a mild, clause by clause is usually a milder thing rather than a debate that is heated. I think we have passed the stage of heat. Where we are now, the thing will sail through peacefully and smoothly in the House of Representatives. I can tell you that.
All right. If you say that we've passed the stage of heat, Honorable Waive, trying to follow the public hearings, you hear different groups, with their own opinion about, whatever concerns them. For example, Nasima has come out to talk about the tax on the free trade zones. Different groups are talking about VAT. The other groups are talking about, some states are talking about the revenue derivation formula. I mean, so if we've really passed the heat, I'm just thinking it means that there's already a decision as regards how
what I'm trying to say is that at this public hearing is a collation of the views of the members of the public. Public hearing is an opportunity for members of the public to have a say in lawmaking. So everybody who wants to say anything there is free and will be heard. Your opinions will be collated. Nobody will be shut down.
So how will decisions be reached? Based on the opinions of those who come up for the public hearing?
When the committee eventually is writing their report, they will take it again clause by clause. What is the opinion of Nigerians vis-a-vis the original provision? In most cases, on most of these provisions, it will go smooth, smooth. But when it comes to things, the contentious part, that's when they will become, here we are. What is Labour saying? What are the governors saying? What is this saying? They will now bring all of that together. If, for instance, the provision was 15%, and governors are 7.5, Labour is saying 7%, another group is saying 5%. So at that point, they put it all together, and there's a debate among members of the committee. One, public is not accepting government 15%, so that goes. Now you have 7.5, 7%, 3%. Somebody could move a motion that will take the average. Another person could say, no, the governor's position is better. They will debate among themselves there and agree on the one that will eventually come out. That is the process.
In other words, it's responsibility on those who are representatives, because people voted them as they represent us. They are going to take responsibility, take decisions on behalf of the Nigerian people.
That is what it is.
That's what it is.
And that will be taking place in the Senate too. Now, we didn't do it jointly, such that by the time the two reports come out from the Senate and from the House, there can be a comparative analysis. It is the beauty of bicameral legislature. You can now see one arm of the legislature could see what the other did not see. So there will become now a conference from both chambers to now look at this and then harmonize on a position to take.
Many thanks, Honorable Wive. We'll get back to you, Dr. Iwundu. You have been, responding to all Honorable Wive has been saying. But I'd like to hear your view about these bills, and if you think, Honorable Wive says the areas that are contentious are very few, meaning that the bills are solid. What's your view?
Yeah, the areas of contention are very few, in my opinion. The bill tried to address the issue of regressive taxation. The bill is trying to put Nigeria in the path of progressive taxation. And the progressive taxation is a situation where the higher you earn an income, the higher tax you pay. In many countries, they practice what we call taxation of high net worth individuals. High net worth individuals in the sense that the rich and the super rich are the one paying the taxes for the benefit of everybody, including the poor. And that is the objective of taxation. The objective of taxation is for redistribution of income. You get taxes from the rich in the society for the benefit of the poor. That's why I say taxation is a physical tool used for redistribution of income and wealth. So when you get taxation from the rich, you provide free medical program, free education, which the poor people will benefit. You can see the redistribution of income. So the current tax reform bill is trying to address that. We have a situation where countries in United Kingdom today, in UK, about 5% of the top taxpayers contribute to almost 80% of the entire income tax generated. Even in United States, about 10% of the top taxpayers contribute to almost 90% of total income tax generated. Even in South Africa here, 1% of top taxpayers contribute to almost 90% of income tax generated. So they are implementing taxation of high net worth individuals. And that is exactly what we expected to implement here. But again, we need to put the bills together so that we can implement it. We have a situation where the rich here are not really paying the taxes, but those that are paying the taxes are even the middle class. If somebody will go, I could remember the situation where somebody went to buy a property worth $1 billion in the part of the country, and they asked the person to bring a tax clearance certificate, and the person, it seemed that the person was paying 100,000 naira as income tax. So the question is that what kind of tax system are you operating that somebody who buy a property of $1 billion in a country, and you say bring your tax clearance certificate, has an income that is making him pay tax of 100,000. So this is exactly what this tax reform bill is trying to address, to make sure that Nigeria is on the path of progressive taxation. The super rich, the rich, have to pay the taxes for the benefit of the poor. I know that one of the major challenges we have in the country is implementation. We have super laws, bills are moving, acts are coming out, but again, implementation is a major problem, because sometimes when it comes to implementation, those who are supposed to implement it, would they have the lever? Would they have what it takes to say, no, this must be in line with the laws and the spirit of the laws? But first of all, let the bills go through. Let them come as laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and let us see how it can be implemented. So that is one of the interesting aspects of the bill, to put Nigeria in the path of progressive taxation. Under the under contentious area is still VAT. VAT is contentious in two ways. You know, the committee proposed the rate move from 7.5% to 10%, from 10% to 12.5%, and 12.5% to 15%.
Yeah.
The governors are the view that no, we can't increase the rate now. Let us keep it at 7.5%. And yesterday, when I was in the Senate Committee for Public Hearing, majority of the memorandum is still saying keep the VAT rate at 7.5%. Most of the submissions are still saying keep the VAT rate. And my position is that the VAT rate should be at 7.5% for now, because one is federal government is trying to achieve a single-digit inflation. That is the aim. The federal government will say we want to achieve a single-digit inflation. So if you want to achieve a single-digit inflation, you don't engage in expansionary fiscal policy, where you start increasing the VAT rate. And again, the ideology that VAT rate has to be increased for VAT revenue to be increased is not true. You can employ tools to increase the VAT revenue without increasing the rate. There's a lot of leakages. I'll give you an example. Around 2013, when I was in the United States, as I lodged in a hotel, as I was paying for the bill, hotel bill, the sales tax was instantly deducted and remitted to the government, instantly.
From you, in addition, or from?
No, yes, they have to collect the sales tax from me. So as they are collecting it, it is instantly remitted before the receipt to be generated to me. So you can see there is a system where you don't allow the person who collects the VAT to keep it and decide to choose how much you're going to pay to government.
Or when to pay.
Exactly, when to pay. It is an instant thing. So when you put systems in places, you can, this VAT you are generating can even generate times 3. If you are generating 1 trillion, you can even generate 3 trillion.
Because you know why this looks a bit like what we've always gone through. A lot of people hold the view that laws have never been the problem of Nigeria. There are laws. I'm sure, for instance, that the existing laws did not say only 30% of Nigerians will pay tax. How did we arrive at that? Yenre asked me this morning if I pay tax. I've always worked for government, so mine is taken instantly. You said it is redistribution of wealth.
Yes.
So who pays? And I'm beginning to, in fact, I was asking, I said, what's the percentage of civil servants? I hope it's not only civil servants that are paying the taxes, you know. But how do we get to implement? At the end of the day, we could go through all of this. If we don't devise a means of implementation that works, that will give us close to 100 or even 100% of collection, then it's an effort in futility.
Exactly, because the bills are okay. The laws need to be there, but our major problem in Nigeria has been implementation. I've been able to say some ideas to government agencies, but again, especially the revenue authorities, it's about implementation. How do you get people to start paying taxes? Because the majority of Nigerians are not paying taxes, especially those in the informal sector. Those in the formal sector, organized private sectors are paying taxes. You are working in the bank or in NTA or in AIT, and they are paying you salary and deducting your pay and remitting it. But what of our brothers and sisters who are in the market, who are doing their businesses? Are they paying taxes? That's the question. Now, we have what we call institutional mechanism to combat tax evasion and tax avoidance. And what is this institutional mechanism? You put in place things that people will demand, and when they are demanding for it, ask them, where is evidence of the taxes you have paid? For example, your driving license expired, and you are approaching the VIO for driving license. Let's see the evidence of tax you've paid. Your vehicle license expired. You want to go for international passport. You want to get loans from the bank. There's institutional mechanisms. There is no how you will go to a point or the other. Or even in immigration, you want to get your international passport, they will ask you, where is evidence of your tax clearance certificate? Or evidence of the tax paid? Are we really implementing it? I could remember when FCT IRS gave a circular to VIO, to road safety, to all agencies of government. This is in the law that anybody coming for these services must show that the person is paying tax. But the question is, are those agencies really implementing it? Are they really implementing it? So
it's more of increasing, widening the
tax net, exactly.
The tax net, to
exactly.
get more people to pay.
We have to go beyond the laws. The laws are good, they need to be in place, because one thing about taxation is that without a law, there is no tax. Before you tax people, you must put in place the legal framework before you can tax people.
All right. Many thanks, Dr. Imudu. We'll get back to you. Let's quickly get to Kamaluddin Alkali now, Sheikh Alkali. Sheikh, listened to you earlier, and of course listening to our guest right here in the studio, that these bills are very solid and the contentious areas are very minute, and if you like, may not affect the overall outcome if it's eventually passed. But I would like to ask you about the revenue derivation formula. That's talking about the sections 22 and 77 of the Tax Administration Bill, which proposes a new VAT sharing formula of 10% to the federal government, 55% to the states, and 35% to the local government areas. Now, this section also proposes for the distribution of 60% of the VAT revenue standing to the credit of states and local governments based on derivation. Now, if the proposal, in these bills, is not eventually assented to, if there's a switch to what the different voices are calling for, will these bills still meet its aim? Eventually, will it still be the much needed, if you like, tax reform that would, shape our country for the better?
Yeah, thank you. I want to concur on the issue confirmed by my honorable member that the contentious issues are few, because you have a situation where you have about 451 sections in the bills, about 400 pages, and then less than 5% of what you have is contentious. So we thank God for that, and the committee did a very good job. But if they claim how the proposal in the bill is that 60% should go on derivation, and then they were silent on the remaining 40%, presumably 20% population, 20% equality. And I think there is nothing in the bills that receives so much attention and comment by Nigerians more than the issue of this 60% on derivation. Number one, derivation has not been interpreted anywhere in the Act and anywhere in the bills. And important as it is, we need to even understand what is meant by derivation. Is it point of sales or point of consumption? Because there is this issue I have been looking at. On one side, you say VAT is a consumption tax. On another side, you say it is multi-stage, inclusive of production stage and the distribution stages. So there should be clear-cut definition of what we mean by derivation. And for me, ordinarily, derivation is based on the principle of attribution. I am not against it in principle. The only challenge is the implementation, as Dr. Iwundu has been saying, implementation. How can we be able to use the fiscalization to achieve what we want to achieve? For me, if that issue continues, the headquarter effect may remain, and the widely suspected hidden agenda will continue to be on the minds of people, that it will make some states richer than others in terms of VAT allocation. Because what we have now, that has been attested to by Mr. Tayo and even Mr. Zaks, is that Lagos, Port Harcourt, or let me say Rivers State and Abuja are taking what does not belong to them. My concern, how are we going to apply the issue of this fiscal, electronic fiscal system? But for me, if the position of the Nigerian governors and the leadership of the presidential committee, as per the communique after their meeting, of making the derivation 30% is adopted by the National Assembly. I think it's very okay. Then they will now, the Inland Revenue Service will now apply the issue of fiscalization. Let us see how it works. If it works, fine and good, it can be increased. But for now, how I wish it remained at 20% until we see the workings of the fiscalization. Thank you.
Sheikh Alkali, thank you very much for your contribution so far. We'll get back to you. Let me get back to Honorable Francis Waive. There is public distrust when it comes to taxation, the way you collect it and how you represent and do all of that. How are the legislators addressing the issues of distrust with these laws?
Thank you. The issue of distrust is more with the taxman. And you know that many, from history, people don't like taxation. People don't like the taxman, the tax collector in the Bible, and everywhere else is looked down upon as a greedy man who takes from people. For us lawmakers, we have tried to be very specific while drafting the various percentages of tax applicable. That's the tool that we have to use to ensure that there's no ambiguity in our drafting. Nothing that will be left to the whims and caprices of the definition of any taxman, so that even the payer will be in the know of what he's liable to pay even before he's been assessed to pay. So that's what we're doing. But I must also add that Nigerians need to get educated on how tax operates, and not just get educated, willingly get involved in paying their taxes. The common talk that we are not seeing what the taxes are doing is not good enough, because what we are using to develop our country today does not necessarily come from taxation. It comes from oil exports and other borrowings and other incomes. But we need to increase our income as a country from taxation. And every Nigerian must be willing to pay his or her tax to make sure that the country earns enough to provide social services to our people. When we are finished with this work, it will be available to the public to critique, to look at. In fact, while we are doing the committee consideration from the public hearing, it will be televised as usual. So Nigerians will be able to see how it's going, and they can always make their inputs.
But bureaucratic delays are also a very serious concern. Is this in view in terms of addressing it, in the law?
You know that tax rules normally from the tax offices, both at the state and the FIRS, there are time limits for you to file your tax returns, pay your tax, and all of that. If we want to make all that part of the law, those regulations, then we're going to have a very bulky document. But the basic ones that are generic, they are there already in the law, that you must do your file your returns at so and so time for company income tax.
All right.
Deadline, so to speak. Those are there quite all right.
Honorable Waive, in your previous response to Victor's question, talking about distrust, you said that's basically on the shoulders of the taxman. I would like to find out, Section 75 of the proposed tax administration bill gives the president the unlimited power to exempt from income tax any company or class of companies and any profits of any company or class of any companies from any source on any ground that appears to be sufficient. Now, the House of Reps are kicking against this particular section. Is this an issue of distrust?
Now, I wouldn't agree that the House of Reps is kicking against it. While the second reading was on, a number of members spoke against that. So it will not be the position of the House, as it were. But all that is being considered during public hearing. By the time the final product comes out, we'll know what will now be the position on that clause. But it's not a question of distrust on Mr. President. It's more a question of trying to ensure that whoever is president of Nigeria is not too powerful. We don't want to have the most powerful president in the world who can tell you the date you will sleep in your house and the date you will not, the day you will not. So we want to reduce those powers. I think that's the concern. It is not because we distrust whoever is president, but power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you don't want to give absolute power to anybody, no matter how patriotic, no matter how good intentioned the person will be. I think that's the area of concern, not of trust.
All right, if you say not of trust, what about Section 141 of this same bill, which grants supremacy of the bill, saying it's, it proposes that the tax bills shall take precedence over any other laws with regards to the administration, assessment, collection, accounting, and enforcement of laws and levies due to the relevant tiers of government. So it's actually a clause that talks about the supremacy of these tax reform laws. The House of Reps also doesn't seem to agree with that clause.
No, we agree. I think you're mistaking it somewhere. Before now, the laws on taxation in our country are about 100. Some people say 65 plus. I mean, documented taxation laws. At the local government level, state and federal. What this law is trying to do, the tax reform bills, is to bring all these together. It's like in the petroleum industry before now. There were several laws for for operating in the oil industry. Now we have only one law. They've all been put together into the PIA, Petroleum Industry Act. It's the same thing the Tax Reform Act is becoming. So every other tax law becomes null and void. Obsolete, useless. So this is the grand norm, as it were, as far as taxation is concerned. So this is what it's trying to say, not necessarily trying to demean other laws. Those laws cease to exist the day Mr. President puts pen on paper.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Waive. I know Dr. Iwundu is itching to respond to some of the issues raised by Sheikh Alkali, but add to it, how will these reforms impact states that rely heavily on, federal allocations?
Okay, thank you. Before I go to that, I want to talk about the derivative principle that has been very contentious. The actors or the proponent of derivative principle want Nigeria to develop fast. I want to say it clearly for Nigerians to hear. The idea of derivative principle is to put this country on the path of development and speed economic activity. When we talk about derivation, people argue that the VAT has to be. People say that the VAT is only a consumption tax. I want to say it in this studio. VAT is not only a consumption tax, it's also a production tax. When you say get 60% of the VAT that is being generated from your area, it will bring competition among the 36 states of the Federation. Every state will be competing to have economic activity, to have productive activity, to have consumptive activity that will give them the VAT. And for example, now, some part of the country has agricultural products that are not vatable. Then they are now moving those agricultural products to a particular section of the country where it will be converted to semi or finished goods. Now, when you convert it to semi or finished goods, the state that has done that conversion will collect VAT. So we expect that states that have agricultural products, the governors and the stakeholders can say, can we put up industries? Instead of carrying tomatoes from one point to another point where it will be converted to tomato paste, we can have some agro-allied industry that can convert this thing for us and we end VAT. So I expected some governors to have embraced this derivative principle, which will help them to industrialize their area, increase production, reduce unemployment, and also drive poverty from the section of the country. So I don't know why people are kicking again. This idea of coming to Abuja to share money cannot take this country to anywhere. Every month, governors come and share money.
You seem to agree with, there's, the clauses, or if you like, you seem to be on the part of the tax reform bills, the proposals.
Exactly, yes, on that particular derivation.
What about Section 59
okay.
Of the tax, which proposes a development levy and gradual reduction of funding to TED Fund, NASENI, and NIDA? What's your view on that?
In our memorandum yesterday, which you submitted to the Senate, we opposed the idea of not funding the TED Fund at some point, because we are seeing it that if you stop funding the TED Fund will go out of existence. Some of us have traveled around the country, seeing so many universities, polytechnics, and we see virtually there's TED Fund project all over the place. So why are you winding up TED Fund only to move the money to students' loan scheme? As I'm talking to you, America cannot manage their students' loan scheme again. The president today, the president of the United States at some point were trying to forgive some of those loans because they can't pay. And they have even data more than us. So what we are, the memorandum we submitted to Senate yesterday, which we're also going to submit to the House of Representatives. So we want TED Fund to stay. We want TED Fund to stay. Including other agencies, NASENI and other, we want them to exist because they have been doing very well. You can find a way of getting funds for students' loan scheme.
To be honest, you go to a place like the National Open University of Nigeria, I'm not sure there's any other project that is not TED Fund.
Exactly.
So what becomes of that kind of university?
Look at
every project is TED Fund.
Even
but let's look at our country. Before TED Fund came into being, the Ministry of Education was funded to do all of this. So I'm not saying that TED Fund should go, but I'm trying to say that TED Fund was brought in to cure something. And it's a problem with our country. We must ensure that those who have the primary responsibility carry out those responsibilities so that we don't begin to wait for interventionist agencies before we're able to do what we should ordinarily do. That the existence of TED Fund is the testimony of the failure of government to fund education properly.
And you remember that at a point, ASU keep going on strike because they will sign a deal with government on the funding of the university, and government is not doing that. So now when you have an interventionist agency like TED Fund, and if you take a track record, we're not talking about infrastructure alone. A lot of funds has gone out from TED Fund for research and development.
All right. Many thanks, Dr. Iwundu. So that's like the first area you have spoken about, the bills that you seem not to be in support of. Okay, we'll get more areas. I'd like to hear your views, about the CIT, which is also another contentions, aspect of these bills. But that will be after the break. Let's take this short break now. We'll get back into the conversation. Stay with us.
My champs, they use energy at school.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
The business environment, to be honest with you, has been extremely hard on most Nigerian women's businesses, and of course harsh for a number of reasons. There is no way you would increase or move subsidy and increase the price of fuel that it doesn't have the counter effect. It has been very challenging for so many women. I know that a lot of them have cried in one way or the other to us to find ways of intervening. But that is not to say that it is all doom and gloom. We will still have a few percentage of women that are thriving in this economy, but we hope that we'll be able to get a larger percentage. One of the things I've seen with even our local purchases now is that people are buying more made in Nigerian options of food, of clothing, and so on and so forth than the imported. So that again is helping some of our industries thrive. Surprisingly, the telecommunications is still doing well, and the reason is very simple. A lot of people are going for online options of skills in terms of training, communications, even remote working. And so you will see that people that provide services around those areas also thrive. But I think at the end of the day, it's about partnerships, collaboration, and influencing power from especially the private sector and even the public sector. But we really need the public sector to drive a number of things, especially policies, because the public sector has the national spread above even whatever we can do in our own small way. What has happened over the years is that even the government, for example, is being pulled from different angles by all these stakeholders. We need to harness ourselves to have strategic focus areas, and we should all be moving in the same direction, not using a competitive approach, but a collaborative approach. Secondly, in collaboration, we need to move with large clusters of decision makers. Instead of, the process of reaching out to individuals is painstakingly long and it takes time. And so we need to engage these stakeholders on a larger platform. I think it's very important to identify where you can get help in your own little way. And one of the things I've realized is that when you operate in silo, it is difficult for you to lift yourself out of the situation. Identify ways you can do what you are doing in a simpler way. And if what you are doing is no more profitable, why not find out what can you do in the meantime that will help you? You need to think outside the box and then connect. What you can do is also identify people and become a cluster to provide a service that ordinarily you cannot do alone.
All right, welcome back. It's the Good Morning Nigeria Live on the network service of the NTA, and our topic for discussion today is on building a consensus on tax reforms. Of course, the tax reform bills, has been, in every segment of society. I mean, if you go on the street, you're on TV, anywhere, it's been a topic of discussion. And of course, that's why we're still talking about it, hoping that a resolution will be reached that all Nigerians will be happy about. Before we went on that break, I mentioned that the company income tax is also another issue. A lot of people are raising concerns about. I'd like to hear your view about that particular clause.
Okay, the company income tax, the committee divided the companies into two, small and others. The small companies are those that have turnover of 50 million and below, and the CIT rate is 0. Then if you have a turnover of more than 50 million, you pay CIT of 30%. But it's graduated descending order, where as a point, the CIT will move from 30% to 27.5% to 25%. Now, that is to align with the tax policy or the global tax policy, because taxation stands on a tripod. You have the tax policy, you have the tax legislation, and then the tax legislation, the tax administration, practice, and jurisprudence. What am I trying to say? The tax policy drives tax legislation, and tax legislation now drives the other tripod, which is administration, practice, and jurisprudence. That is court cases. Now, globally, the world is moving away from direct taxation to indirect taxation, meaning that trying to reduce the company income tax and personal income tax rate, reducing their incident, rather collecting money from indirect taxes, transaction taxes like VAT, stamp duties, withholding tax. So globally, countries are looking at, no, let us collect more money from withholding tax, from stamp duties, from VAT, from sales tax. That's why we should make money. But issue of company income tax, personal income tax, which are direct taxes, have direct effect on, let us begin to play down on it. I think that's what the committee have done. By looking at this tripod of taxation of global tax policy as it affects tax legislation, and definitely tax administration. However, the governors in their own memorandum, we are saying both increasing VAT from 7.5 to 10 and also reducing the CIT rate should remain. That is their view. But we are of the view that the reason why we don't want VAT to increase at this point is because we want to federal government to see.
Why do you think the governors want the CIT not to be reduced? Don't want the CIT to be reduced?
It's a compensating. Is a compensating thing. If you are not increasing the VAT rate from 7.5% to 10%, then why reducing the CIT rate? Government cannot lose at both ends. So if you are keeping the VAT rate, then you keep the CIT rate. But where you are increasing the VAT rate, I can say, yes, reduce the CIT. It's compensatory in nature.
So do you think that, do you see any measure in these bills that takes care of small businesses, that ensure that they truly benefit? Because small businesses, benefit an economy immensely.
Yeah. Prior to this bill, remember that what we have right now is companies that have 25 million turnover and below are exempted from tax. I'm a tax practitioner. If your company has 24 million, 23 million, 20 million, I file your returns, you don't pay any tax. You only pay me my professional fees. Now the committee have increased this threshold to 50 million. 50 million means that if you are doing business in Nigeria and your turnover is less than 50 million, you have no tax to pay. So it's a very wonderful thing. It's a very wonderful one. Right. And this turnover threshold, I also want to say it, make it very clear, is when it comes to company income tax, not when you are doing business with business names. There's a difference between business name registration and company limited liability company. So people now who are doing business name, you can even, if you trade up to even 10 million, 20 million, 30 million business, you still pay your taxes. You can't say the turnover threshold is less than 50 million. Instead, you can go and register a limited liability company, because the amendment of this is under Company Income Tax Act. Business names are being legislated under Personal Income Tax Act. So we need to educate Nigerians very well.
That education is very critical at this point. But let's get to Sheikh Alkali now to begin to round up the conversation. Listening to Honorable Waive, I mean, it's the committee that decides, what happens at the end of the day. I mean, we're done with the heat, and, tax reform bills have come to stay one way or another. I want you to speak to states at this time, especially states that are, reliant on a federal allocation. What do you think they should be doing at this point in time?
Thank you. Part of what they should do has already been mentioned by Dr. Kenneth Yondu, that along the line, they are only producing raw materials for others to process, that they should go along and start producing also the finished products. That is good and is key, that it is a catalyst for industrialization in these states. But in addition, my take also is that there should be VAT on the raw materials that they produce. Because you cannot say there is no value addition at the level of production. Why would Imo State, for instance, produce granite, and then somebody from Bauchi will go and buy that granite without VAT, and then process into biscuits and maybe refined cooking oil, and then he will put VAT on it, and then VAT will be paid from Bauchi to Federal Land Revenue Service, and it will be recorded that Bauchi State has contributed into the VAT pool account for that month, and then on the day of sharing, Bauchi will take credit. And then Imo, that did the initial value addition, is not recognized. So both ways, that there should be VAT on their raw material, and then they should also use that as a catalyst to start adding value within the state. So that is on that. So many things have been discussed. and I want to have an input on some of them. The issue of the students, the NEL fund, that for me, the honorable member made a point that all these agencies are interventionists, and an intervention should not last forever. But I'm not asking for scraping, I'm against scraping them for now. What I want to suggest is that the NEL fund is a revolving fund. So let there be a seed fund. Let government put a seed fund, which is an initial fund, and then it will continue to circulate among the students. As some return their own, others are collected. So that is that on the issue. Then there is another issue. Not excessive power for the president. There is also excessive power for the chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service in so many regards. One, that the chairman FIRS is the chairman FIRS, that is the service, is the chairman Federal Inland Revenue Service Board, is the chairman technical committee of the board, is the chairman joint tax board, and the four are in one. So, I mean, that is excessive. My advice on this is let the chairman of the board be a separate person. Not only that the chairman FIRS is the chairman of the board, but that he is the only member of the board that is coming from the service. Since 2007, it is not the committee that, brought about this, but they adopted it. So let them, rather than adopting some of the laws, they should adapt. So let there be a separate chairman. Now, another thing that was discussed was this issue of VAT rate, increase in VAT rate. Me, I'm of the opinion that we should increase the VAT rate, but not on everything. Let there be a segmentation of the items that are attracting VAT based on needs. Because VAT is a tool for government, to use in discouraging or encouraging consumption of certain items. That is a fiscal tool. So we should increase the VAT rate on articles of ostentations, for instance, and other things that government wants to does not want consumption on, like cigarette. If you make VAT on cigarette to be 20%, so be it. If you make the purchase of luxury vehicles to be 50%, so be it. So that way, you will increase the total VAT collection. I also want to talk of the issue of zero rating of some items, like the issue of zero rating agricultural implements. That when you buy a tractor, for instance, you pay VAT on it, and then you claim refund. The chairman of the committee, Tayo, now mentioned himself in one of his television interviews that in his more than 20 years of practice, he was able to get tax refunds only once. What more of a peasant farmer that cannot leave his village to go to Abuja or to go to the city to start fighting for VAT refund? So I suggest let there be exemption, not zero rating. Then there is issue of ambiguity. There are ambiguities that are still in the bills, though they were inherited from the Act. One of the areas is the issue of ecclesiastical, use of ecclesiastical when it comes to exemption, or when it comes to exemption. For me, the word ecclesiastical ordinarily means nothing to me, because Aramaic, Arabic, all these languages, they share so many things in common. You have salam in Arabic, you have shalom in Aramaic, things like that. But for the application area, there could be an issue. That when you want to apply strictly, other places of worship will not enjoy that exemption. So let the word be substituted with religious. Then another area I'm looking at is the area of family taxation. I agree fully with Mr. Tayo that this issue is not talking of inheritance tax, but that is not how many people see it. So if people are seeing it different, let us rephrase that. I think it's section either 3 subsection 4, something like that, or 4 subsection 3. Let's rephrase that section to clear the ambiguity. Or let there be another subsection following that will clear the ambiguity that we are not talking of inheritance tax. But I believe that section is not talking of inheritance tax. But we are not talking of Kamal, we are talking of other people. So these are some of the issues I look. But finally, there is this issue of orientation. I have been talking about it. I've been preaching orientation. That we still do not believe Nigeria is our country, that it is for us. Let there be a ministry for orientation, national orientation. Let our children begin to believe that they have no other place than Nigeria. And let us strive to leave Nigeria better than we met it. The level of suspicion is too much. Not only that, let there be enough sensitization for people to know that paying tax is a civic responsibility and that taxation is the only permanent substitute to oil. It is the only sustainable means of financing government expenditure, and that it has come to stay. It has been there from the beginning. It will be there to the end. That let's change our tax-paying culture. And then the issue surrounding...
Thank you very much. You've raised a lot of issues that we won't even have the time to get responses to. But we thank you very much for all the issues you have raised, even from the beginning. Let me quickly do one last trip to Honorable Francis Waive, and I'm talking implementation still. Yeah. Does the law have, it's not a law yet, the bills, are there provisions for measures against, say, states or individuals who do not, pay their taxes as it should be, if they don't, when it becomes law, that is?
Of course, every law comes with punishment for,
enforceable,
anyone who breaks the law. So, of course, there are such provisions for enforcement of the law. The FRS has the powers conferred on it by the bills when they become law to enforce the law, and every law enforcement powers of government will definitely be used. So there are adequate provisions for all of that.
All right. If you were a prophet, I know you're a member of the House of Reps, but what's your prediction? What do you see happening in the coming days as regards these bills?
By the way, I'm a prophet also. Honestly.
Okay, so maybe I saw the supernatural.
As a pastor and as a prophet, so coming into politics was a way of bringing a bit of that. Sadly, our country is very religious, but very immoral, and some of us think we can change that. What I can see in the future is that these laws will make the ease of doing business in Nigeria something very easy. Investors will be glad. They have one port of call, there's one law, there's no multiplicity anymore. So it's good for business. Multiple taxation will be wiped away. And the poor of the poor will be free from the burden of taxation. So it's a good law, and I'm looking forward to it reviving our economy. I'm looking forward to a situation where the standard of living would even rise because of the implementation of these laws.
All right, Dr. Iwundu, you have a prophet seated by you, so maybe by extension.
Politician.
So maybe by extension, you have been able to tap from the grace of the prophet to tell us, what your projections are as regards these bills.
No, the bills will be passed, and we'll have a new tax laws in place, which will put the economy in a new trajectory and also stimulate the economy. The only thing we need to hammer once these bills are passed into law and the president signs is that there must be effective implementation. Because if you don't implement laws, it's as good as you don't have any law. A law is not implemented is as good as not having a law.
All right, I would like to hear from Sheikh Al-Khali as we round up the conversation. Sheikh, your final thoughts on the program this morning.
Yeah. For me, the bills have gone far, and that the National Assembly should do the needful. And when they do that, there will be a very good consensus of all the divides on the issue of the bills. And I believe them. I believe they will do what is needful. I pray that God will give them the wisdom to do what is right for us, so that posterity will write their names in gold. Thank you.
All right, let me quickly get to, I think we have a couple of minutes left. Honorable Waive, can we expect, future amendments in the laws, or you think that this is the definitive structure that this law could take?
Every law is subject to amendment, especially when you start implementing. Take the PIA that we passed. That was our star legislation in the Ninth Assembly. That those of us who were members of the Ninth Assembly are very proud of. The operators of the law, the international oil companies and all that, they are already called us for a meeting to point out the areas they think are not favorable or good in operation. So they're putting together an amendment bill already that they are sending to us. So the same thing with the tax reform bills. We expect that in the future, as operations go on, the FIRS, Nigerian citizens, every other taxpayers, they'll come up with possible amendments. And that's why we are there as lawmakers. We entertain that.
Fantastic point. Many thanks.
If there's a definite in law, they won't be there to make new laws, amend the laws. Globalization bring about changes.
We want to retire them.
No, please not.
All right, we need to round up the conversation. By the way, gentlemen, we have a prophet in our midst. I'm the one collecting the offering. So when
what he didn't tell me is that he's also a lawyer and banker. He didn't tell you that.
No, well, we take the prophet for today. I mean, next program we can take the lawyer and the banker aspect. Many thanks for joining us for the conversation, Honorable Francis Ejirogene Waive.
Accountant and banker.
Okay, accountant, banker, prophet. I think I should start again. Accountant, banker, prophet, Honorable Francis Ejirogene Waive. It was a pleasure to have you. Many thanks for your insights this morning. We do appreciate you sincerely. Of course, Dr. Kennedy Iwundu, immediate past chairman, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Abuja District, and also Associate Professor Forensic Accountancy. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We also appreciate you. And of course, it was a pleasure to have Sheikh Kamaluddin Al-Khali, former Assistant Director, Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, who joined us in our Kano studio. Many thanks for joining us, Sheikh. We appreciate you, and of course, look forward to having you some other time.
Thank you.
So that's our program on Good Morning Nigeria this Tuesday. I'm Yanwe John. Join us again tomorrow and remain tuned to the NTA.
And I am Victor Azo. I thank you also for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Enjoy your day.